Every once in a while, a story comes along that reminds us just how much can change when one person chooses to say yes. Yes to helping, yes to showing up, yes to an opportunity that doesn't come with guarantees, instructions, or a clear roadmap.
Today's conversation begins in a small Maasai village in northern Tanzania and follows an extraordinary journey shaped by courage, education, trust, and the belief that a single life is always worth investing in. But this isn't just a story about crossing continents. It's a story about possibility, about the people who see something in us before we're able to see it in ourselves, and the impact that belief can have for generations to come.
In part one of this special two-part conversation, we explore how Tony Matteroli and Angel Mollel first met, the unlikely path that brought Angel to the United States, and the family bond that forever changed both of their lives.
Welcome to the PIG, where we explore life, love, loss, and legacy through real conversations and meaningful stories with purpose, intention, and gratitude. We're Kelly and Erin, sisters, best friends, sometimes polar opposites, but always deeply connected by the life and love of the woman who taught us that sometimes the greatest gift we can give another person is simply believing in them. Our mother, Marcia.
Before we begin, a quick note for our listeners. Angel is joining us remotely from her Maasai village in northern Tanzania, the very place where this remarkable story began. While we've done our best to optimize the technology, you may occasionally hear minor audio interruptions due to the distance and internet connection. We think you'll agree it's a small price to pay for the opportunity to share this conversation across continents and around the world. Our guests today are Tony Matteroli and Angel Mollel. Growing up, Tony and I lived in the same neighborhood in Grand Junction, Colorado. We met after the three little pigs, Erin, Mom, and me, moved from the farm to town. A new life, a new beginning, a new subdivision, and very quickly, living just around the corner, Tony became a new friend. Fast forward a few decades. In 2010, after being laid off from a job he thought would be permanent, Tony found himself asking a question many people face during unexpected transitions. What's next? What was supposed to be a 6-month volunteer trip to Tanzania became something much bigger, because that's where he met Angel. Angel grew up in a Maasai village in northern Tanzania with 16 siblings, 2 mothers, and 1 father. Education for girls was not always considered essential, but her father believed differently, and that decision would eventually change everything. This is a story about Angel, but it's also a story about fathers, the ones who choose to see potential, open doors, and believe in us long before we're able to see it for ourselves. The kind of belief that can change the course of a life forever. By 2012, Angel was living in the United States, beginning 5th grade in a completely new country, new culture, and new language. Today, she's a college graduate, a filmmaker, a nonprofit founder, and an advocate whose work is changing lives in the very village where her story began. But underneath all of the accomplishments, recognition, and extraordinary milestones, this is really a story about what becomes possible when one person chooses not to give up on another. About seeing someone, believing in them, fighting for them, and becoming family in a way neither of them could have predicted. Tony and Angel, before we jump in, one of the things we love most about your story is that it reminds us how profoundly our lives can change when we stay open to people we never expected to meet. And so much of what we explore here is the idea that some of the most profound and meaningful parts of life are the ones we never planned for. So we'll start there. Where does the unboxing of your story begin?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, it's great to be here. Really appreciate it. And Kelly and Erin, it's great to see you guys again. So really appreciate this opportunity. in your monologue there, there were lots of buzzwords that brought back memories really about our journey, about our challenges, about the struggle, about the accomplishments. A lot of memories there. It's hard to say when it began. I mean, obviously when I was in Africa, and as you mentioned, I went there for a short stint. And at that time in my life, I made the decision. I never planned to be married. I never planned to have any kids. I was just kind of content with what I was doing and where I was at. And so when I went to Africa, the last thing on my mind was I'm going to come home with a daughter. So it was pretty remarkable how that happened. And when I met Angel, I almost literally knew right then that something was going to be different with my life. There was 300 kids at the school that I was volunteering at, all elementary age, just all wonderful, amazing little kids. Just the day I saw Angel, there was just something about her. Even before I spoke to her, there was just something about her. That's when it all changed. I mean, that's when the journey really started.
Our first moment was literally him walking into the, small school library and just asking one of the students, "Who is that? Can you call her over?" It's not like we bumped into each other and we said, "Hi, hello." He saw me doing my own thing and asked another student to come and get me. So it was almost like a look from a distance, which it's so hard to explain, but it's crazy to think about.
Tony, when you think about that moment, can you describe what it was about Angel that struck you so deeply? It sounds like it was just an absolute knowing.
It was. Angel and I always say this, just Tanzania is hard. Everything about it's hard. Living's hard. Going to school's hard. Going to the store to get essentials is hard. Everything's hard. And, Angel grew up in that, and Angel lived in that when I met her, and as did all the kids there. But when I was in that classroom and I was watching, Angel's enthusiasm and just her, you could tell just her desire to learn. The teacher would ask a question just like they would here in America, and the kids would raise their hand. But Angel went the extra step. I mean, she wanted to make sure the teacher called on her. She wanted to know the answer. She wanted to give the answer. She was just so competitive to be the best in the entire class. I think that's what first caught my eye, just how engaged she was in her education and in her environment. And it's never stopped. It's only accelerated her competitive level and her quest to be number one.
Thank you, guys. These are such nice words. Maybe I should just listen the whole entire time. I love what I'm hearing.
I actually want to hear from you, Angel. I would love a little glimpse into, from your perspective, what was your life like in Tanzania before meeting Tony? Kelly touched a little bit on, the world that you grew up in. Can you expand on that? Can you just tell us a little bit more about your childhood and what life was like for you?
Like what Tony said, I mean, life in the village is so hard. Doing the simplest thing takes a whole day, but we grew up very traditionally. I mean, I was born in a mud hut, sleeping on cow hides. There's 8 children in one bed. So that's kind of how we grew up. My dad had livestock. We planted corn and all kinds of plants. And I don't know, it's waking up every day and trying to survive. It's waking up every day and finding that next meal. And a whole meal takes a whole day to find because the girls would stay at home with their moms, washing clothes, cooking, doing all this. And the boys would help with the cattle and everything. So, I mean, every day was just waking up and surviving, waking up and surviving. And everybody has a lot of kids because, it's a poly culture. So a lot of the men have multiple wives. So having a lot of kids is just a normal thing here. And also, schools weren't a big thing. So the girls would just kind of grow up watching what their moms would do and then get married in their teens. Some of the boys would get lucky and go to school, but majority of them kind of just look after the cattle. But they did get educated more than the women. But eventually, they started building more schools, and the government was really urging the Maasai culture to educate the girls and all the children. And my dad, for some reason, was very keen to listening. And so he took that to heart. Because in my family, there are 16 children and 11 of them are girls.
Wow.
A lot of the Maasai families, majority of the girls would just get married because anytime a girl gets married, the father gets a certain amount of livestock. And livestock was a bank account, so anybody would take that deal any day. But my dad started educating some of us, which I was really happy for. There are days that I would literally kneel next to my dad and just tell him, please educate me.
Wow.
Because it was either education or getting married off in my teen to a very, a much older man. So I knew education was my way of surviving. And thankfully, my dad did educate some of my sisters, and we were next. It just happened to be the same time that a family from America was building a school. And I urged him, I was like, please, please just enroll us in that school. Because sadly, the school in the village is here, but it's not that great. It's really not that great. So I was just fighting for my dad to educate some of us. And thankfully, he enrolled my sister and I in that school. And I just loved the idea of just going to school. I just loved it. Because if it wasn't that, then it was the natural Maasai life, which I did not want. I started seeing some of my sisters go through it, so I knew I did not want that. So just being in class was already such a happy thing for me. Just the idea of education, just the idea of creating a new path for myself, because neither of my parents, they've never been educated.
Right.
So they just kind of know the idea of education, but they don't truly understand it. So I was just so thankful that my dad was able to enroll us and see the importance of education. So that's kind of how we got enrolled in that school. And that's kind of how the whole thing started with meeting Tony a few years later.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I have goosebumps. It just makes me understand even Tony's comment about just your enthusiasm. I feel like I have a little bit of a deeper understanding of where that came from. And so thank you so much for that. What a gift that your father gave you to enroll you in that school. And we talk so often in life, right, about the twists and turns that life takes. And you were just absolutely meant to be there at that school at that moment in time to meet Tony. It's remarkable. I can't wait to hear so much more about this story.
So here's my question is how then do we get to the transition of one family to another family? Because you're enrolled in the school, you have a father who believed in your education and you enough to enroll you in the school. Then you meet Tony. How does this family connection start to become a reality?
Well, I met Tony in October of 2010. And from our first initial meeting, I can kind of tell he was favoring me above the other kids because he would, call me in and give me a Fanta or take more pictures of me. Or I used to have a lot of headaches. I'm sure it was from dehydration. So he used to like take me out to get some fresh air. He would make up some sort of fun game where we would just like throw rocks at some piece of cloth that's, 10 feet away. So I definitely knew there was some sort of friendship happening. I just didn't know where it was going to go. But in December, when we closed the school, Tony was like, so what's the process to going home? And I was like, well, we normally just like hitchhike because the school is, it's a good, 4 or 5 miles from where we live. So every time we close the school, we just, hike up and go home, on foot. And he told me, meet me here tomorrow morning with my sister, because my sister was always with me, basically twins, because we're born a week apart, I think. And he was like, meet tomorrow morning and I'll take you guys home. And I was like, okay. So the next morning we were so happy. We ran to the school and he was there with the school van. And he had gone to the market the night before and bought a whole, what do you call those, Tony? Do you remember?
The containers?
Yeah, like a whole container of clothes. And he just said, these are for you. And this is a person that has only owned 2 pairs of outfits, my school outfit and my Maasai outfit. And that was it. And now I have a full container full of clothes. I mean, I was just overwhelmed in that moment. But we were able to get in the car, come all the way to the village. And it was strange to see a car in the village. Let's just say that. And you just see this van pulling up to my dad's compound. And everybody stopped doing whatever they were doing. And they ran outside to see what the heck was going on. And in the car, here I come out, and my sister Rebecca comes out, and then Tony comes out. And everybody is just stunned. They have no idea what's going on. I don't even remember to this day how I introduced Tony. I think I just said, this is my friend Tony, and that's all. But I just remember everybody just loved him from the second from the second we stepped out of the car, everybody just fell in love with him. I mean, we still have pictures to this day of that exact same day, but everybody just fell in love with him. My dad always said he was almost like a missing brother that finally came home, because they refer to each other as brothers. So it was just an instant bond. The same bond that we had in the school, my family had the same bond when they all met. So when everybody fell in love with each other, then I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I do actually have a really cool friend here, But totally feel free to add, but that's totally my perspective.
Yeah, and she's exactly right. When I first met her in the classroom, then I kind of knew who she was. Then I think the next day or a couple days later, all the kids would gather to eat, and Angel wouldn't. I noticed she wasn't eating, and she'd be kind of by herself, and she just something seemed off. And so I found out, that's when I found out she had headaches and, she just wasn't feeling good. So through this whole time, her name is Sister Donna. The school, it wasn't a Catholic school, but it was affiliated with a local convent there, with just the most amazing women I've ever met in my life. One of which was Sister Donna, who actually worked at the school. She came in every day. So she was always with us. Angel and I communicated pretty well, but we always had Sister Donna, who spoke perfect English and, of course, Swahili. I don't know if she spoke any Maasai, probably not. But she could always, if there was a glitch, if there was something, she could always translate, and she was there. She was actually with us the day that I took Angel and Rebecca back home. So she was there also to, communicate and translate. But when I noticed Angel wasn't feeling good, I talked to Sister Donna about it, because she knew where to go in the cities and the hospitals and everything. So we got Angel taken to a hospital and got her looked at, and I think it was more than dehydration. I think you had malaria and you had something else.
Wow.
And malaria I know it sounds so rare to us. It's pretty common. I've had it like 3 times now. So it's super easy to treat. The problem is they don't diagnose it. And then even though it's easy to treat, they can't afford the treatment. So we got Angel all fixed up, and she was back on her feet in no time. And during that month or two, I got to know her and Rebecca really well. And then, I remember that first trip to the village, though, when we pulled up. And it's funny because, in America, we expect a certain amount of, I guess, emotion when you haven't seen a family member or a parent, especially at that age. She was 11 or 12 at the time. We don't know exactly. But so I'm envisioning they're going to run out of the car and just hug their dad, hug their mom. Because when we saw them, we were driving up and they spotted them a little ways off. And they're like, oh, there's my father. There's my father. And so we got up closer and they got out of the car and they just walked up to him. And the classic Maasai greeting for elders and kids, the elder just puts his hand on their head, and that's it. Then the kid just goes away. And that's all they did. That was just the weirdest thing to me, that there wasn't a big hug and a kiss and everything else involved. But, they took me in just like I, was taking Angel in. I mean, they took care of me, and they always invited me up to their Angel's Head compound. That's kind of how it is in the village, kind of their group of houses, for meals. And they sacrificed for me. They would kill a goat, which to them is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because Angel said their livestock is like their bank account. They don't have bank accounts. So if they need money, they'll go sell a goat, and that's where they get their money, like an ATM. So they would kill a goat for me and cook these amazing meals. So they took care of me just like I was taking care of them. So it was a real give and take relationship. So that's how I got to know the family. Because I think, how long was that first break? Maybe like a month?
It was a month.
A month. So during that time, man, I was probably there in the village every day, I would imagine, just hanging out with the family. And I couldn't communicate with them. At that time, Sister Donna had left because she went back to the convent for the break. So I was just hanging out in the village with all the siblings and the parents and the grandparents. And if Angel was around, that was great. She could translate. But at that point, her English wasn't amazing. So there was lots of just nonverbal hanging out going on.
Well, and you were in 5th grade, right? So you're like 10?
Not even then. I think I was in 3rd grade.
At that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at that time, I mean, we didn't get her back to the U.S. for 2 more years.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So you were, 7, 8, 9 years old.
I was being a kid. All I would tell him is I'm hungry. We'll go eat.
Wow.
But it was amazing. And he did so much. I mean, he won't talk about himself, but even the first moment he met my family, I mean, he was handing my mom a brand new pair of shoes. I think my mom's house was mid-construction, so he finished that project. So, I mean, they all just trusted him from the moment they all met him. They just trusted him.
They're just a great family. I just love them to death, and I approach them as my family. Her dad's my brother, and I love them all. Her siblings, talked to one of them, was it yesterday? Anna was on the phone.
Yep.
So again, it was limited conversation, but we chatted as much as we could.
But Tony learned just the right amount of words because he called my sister a chicken yesterday. And that was just enough to make everybody crack up. Like everybody was laughing. He doesn't know a lot of words, but he will say one thing and everybody's cracking up.
That's fantastic.
There's something so powerful in hearing this, and our listeners aren't going to be able to see your faces, like we are here, but just the humanity behind all of it. We all know when you just meet a good human being and you have that instant connection, you're drawn to them. Angel, like you said, there's just trust there. It's remarkable. And I love that was very mutual from the beginning, that there was just this human-centered bond between your two families that is really profound and very extraordinary.
Yep.
I'm going to add a little caveat to that because I will tell you, Tony, I will go back in time to when we were almost Angel's age when she came to the United States. That was when I met you and your family. We had been uprooted from where we had grown up, plopped into this subdivision where we didn't know anybody and starting a new life. Of all the people and all the kids that we kicked the can and rode our bikes with or whatever in that neighborhood, the very first time that I remember meeting you, there was an energy and a connection that said, this is a really good human. And I remember where that friendship started. And it's so reminiscent of this conversation and why I felt so strongly just having watched this unfold from a distance via social media over the years to reach out and say, will you share your story?
So cool.
So it's kind of uncanny and it's a lot of fun for my heart to hear you say all of that, Angel, because I feel that inside of my own being about this great man that you call a dad.
Aw.
Thank you.
He's a great man for sure.
So we have the month in Tanzania. What happens then?
Well, during that month, we did a lot of, how Angel said earlier, every day you woke up and looked for food. I mean, we woke up every day, and for me, I felt the responsibility of entertainment. I guess selfishly a little bit for myself, because although I love being in the village, just sitting there for 10 hours a day, when I'm in this new country. So yeah, we just tried to find things to do every day. Luckily, we had transportation. I had a car that could drive us around. There's two close cities, one east, one west. So we'd go either to Arusha or Moshi and explore the city, go to the markets and eat good food, eat pizza. Introduced Angel and her sister to pizza and milkshakes and
Nice.
things like that. We just spent every day together that month, me and Angel and her sister, and then whatever family members were around, we'd all just kind of hang out and get to know each other. That's what we did. And then after a month, school started back up. So Angel and Kingy, her legal name's Rebecca, she goes by Kingy. So they went back to their living situation by the school and kind of said goodbye to their family for the next 4-6 months. And then I was at the school there full time. So, I saw them every day because that's where I was doing my volunteer work. So that's kind of where we were at.
I think it's a little different. Remember, I switched school because now I remember.
Oh, did you?
Timeline. Yeah, we went to Scholastica. Remember that?
Okay, I do remember. I just forget the timeline.
Yeah, so after we spent that month together, and I think that's when we even went to Dar es Salaam and Zanzibar, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe I'm also mixing it up. But that's when we did a bunch of all those stuff. And then you were hoping to find a better school. So that's when we switched schools to a school that was in Moshi. So that was the timeline.
I do remember that. So Angel's living situation at the school wasn't great. Angel and her sister. I mean, she was living with another Maasai family, and I don't want to say it was abusive, but it just wasn't a great situation. I mean, they almost treated Angel and her sister as servants. Like they had to get up extra early before school, prepare all the food for everybody, then go to school,
Wow.
come back, prepare the food, clean, and then Angel and Rebecca in the meantime are trying to study, and it wasn't great. So I think my goal was I wanted to get them set up in a better situation. So when I did leave, which at this point was probably like only 3 or 4 months away, I just wanted to get them in a better situation. So when I left, I knew they, were in a boarding school, they were being taken care of, they were getting better food. That was the idea. And it didn't turn out to be that way exactly, which we'll get into. But that's kind of correct, right, Angel?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, we switched schools that January, which was sad also because I, couldn't see Tony every day with the new school. Like I said,
That's right.
yeah, which didn't work out. And then they had visiting day 2 months later. And when Tony came with my dad, which was a long car ride because they can't talk to each other, they see a bird and point at it. And that's pretty much the whole conversation.
Tweet,
But
tweet.
Exactly.
yeah, seriously. We kind of explained the situation and got moved to a different school, which was better. But then at that point, I knew he was coming to leave. So, but for some reason, I just knew, even though he was going back to the US, that it wasn't like the end, just because of how we communicated. And he would always make these jokes like, I wish I can just put you in my pocket and take you to America.
Aw.
And little did I know he was, actually working on the process. So maybe this is when you had returned and decided to come back to work on it. But we'd always make that joke, he wishes he could take me to America. And what kid doesn't wish that? I would always say, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's all kind of coming back. The timeline's kind of falling back in place. When her dad and I came up a couple months later, before I had left my first trip there, we went on visiting day and we got up there and it was a big, beautiful school. I mean, it was by Mount Kilimanjaro, kind of at the base of it. So
Mm.
a lot of lush vegetation and just beautiful scenery. And the school was really amazing. But when we got up there, they had it all set up. It was outside in the courtyard and tables and sodas and all kinds of stuff. But, I could just tell something was off with Angel. I mean, I'd only known her for a few months, but I could just tell something was off. And I don't think Angel wanted to tell her dad because he probably wouldn't want her to complain because he knew I was sending them to a boarding school now that cost more money. And so I don't know if there was a conversation had there, but at some point that day I asked Angela, like, what's going on? And she just said 3 words. She said that they beat us.
Mm.
And, they use the word beat just like spank and punish, but,
Mhm.
it was profound. They beat us. And this little tiny, she was so small at the time, just this little stick figure. I mean, right there, I was like, okay, we're pulling you out. So at that point, I forget, Angel, do you recall? Like, I think I went and spoke to an administrator or something, or
Yeah.
confirmed them, and
Yep.
it didn't go well. I do remember that. They didn't deny it. They're like, that's the African way. That's how we do it, which I kind of knew. Even at the school I met her, the teachers, not to an extreme extent like they did at this boarding school, but they all kept sticks in their office to, whack the kids. They would just do light physical abuse. I mean, it wasn't great. Did we even pack up your stuff or did we just leave?
I think we did a little bit, but we had our containers, which we would normally just keep our stuff in there. So you just went to the headmistress and told her, I'm pulling them out, give me their stuff and all that. And she wasn't really cooperating that well. She was surprised by everything, like the fact that we were literally getting pulled out of school because they were beating us. Like, to them, that's just like a normal thing.
It's just
And
normal.
even my dad was like, stop doing this. Like, you're really you're stressing him out, meaning Tony. And I could see Tony really, at this point, nothing was going to stop him,
Mm-hmm.
But even that teacher was so mad at me, and she was like, you will come back one day. And the whole time was like,
She froze.
Oh,
So anyway, yeah, the teacher was not happy. But we loaded up the van. We got their container.
Okay.
You cut out, Angel, so I took over. Sorry. We left. It was stressful because at that point I was leaving, I think just in a 2 or 3 weeks. The plan fell through with this boarding school. We had to find plan B. I still wanted to get him into a boarding school and not send him back to that living situation. So we found this school through Sister Donna, our contact, called her and told her what was going on. And she recommended another school. Angel, was the next school, was it the one in Rumbo?
It's the one in Rumble. Yeah.
Okay. So we quickly, I think Sister Donna actually,
Yep.
that was a Catholic school. I think Sister Donna had some connections there and she called them. And even though it was like mid-semester, she was able to pull some strings and get them in there. So we got them up in Rumbo, which is even further away. It was probably like a 2-hour drive from their village. Again, it was way up in the mountains, kind of close to the Kenyan border. But we got them all set up in there, and I think was that the last time on that trip that I saw you?
Yeah, because then you came and left.
Yeah. So it was a sad day. It was good to get Angel and Kingy situated again. Fingers crossed it was going to be better. But yeah, it was pretty sad to know I was leaving her. And at that point, I just assumed that was it. I really did. I mean, of course, I wanted to bring her home, but I didn't know anything about the logistics of that and, visas and all that stuff. So I just assumed that was going to be it. It was a sad day.
Do you remember that day, Angel?
I wish I did. I think I was just so young to even comprehend like what's going on and the magnitude of it. Like I was just I still remember that day.
But you remember all the clothes I bought you?
Yeah, I remember the clothes. I'm a girl. What can I say?
So cute. And the pizza.
And the
And
pizza.
the pizza and the sodas. Like,
And the milkshakes.
how can I not?
So then, Tony, you returned to the United States.
I did. And the plan was just, at that point, it'd been, I don't know, I was there for 6 months and, probably 3 more months. So it'd been like almost a year since I worked. So it's like, okay, time to resume my life and go back to work. And I mean, I was just, I don't want to say I was in a state of depression, but I just was really missing Angel. I was worried about her, worried about Rebecca. I missed the family. At that point, after I came back, I'm like, okay, I want to do more, a lot more. I want to see if I can bring her here to America. And I guess naively, I didn't really, look into it too much. So I went back to Africa. I think I was here for maybe 4, 5, 6 months. And I went back to do this, I was going to do the same thing. Plan was just to, once I get there, just start an adoption process in Tanzania. First time I was there, I lived in a house that was owned by an attorney. He lived in Boma, which is a small town, but he worked in Moshi and Arusha, the cities that are close by. So I kind of asked him, this is what I want to do. And so he was a character. He kind of looked into it, and it didn't take long to realize that it was going to be literally impossible to do that in Tanzania just because of the corruption. Historically, there's very few adoptions out of Tanzania. The government, for whatever reason, they don't really like it or allow it. I mean, a lot of countries you hear of, like Ethiopia and Kenya, there's tons of options, but Tanzania, for whatever reason, there's hardly any. But before I did any of this, when I went back, had a long talk with Sister Nona. We went up to the village and had a long talk with, well, she did because I had a long listen, but she told them my plans of what I would like to do, and that it was completely up to them. And we had this conversation before Angel knew anything, because I didn't want to tell Angel what I would like to do, and then her family would say no, and then I have to tell Angel no. So we had a long conversation, and Angel, you might remember, it seems like your dad at that point took it to the village or took it to the family, or what happened there? Do you know?
They basically had like a village meeting, or technically like a family meeting, where they brought all the elders together. And my dad basically asked them, like, Tony would like to take Angel to the US. Is this possible? And everybody said no. Everybody was like, no, we will never see her again. We don't know what might happen. So everybody said no. But in my grandfather's compound, we had one uncle that was educated. He had been to college and everything, and he just stood up and said, no, this is a chance of a lifetime. We have to let her go. Whatever happens, happens, but we have to let her go. Like, we cannot say no to this kind of opportunity because we don't know when it might come out again. So he basically like told everybody, and that was the end of that. And it just became yes after that point.
Well, then that got back to me. And then after that, that's when I started working with this attorney, and shortly found out it was going to be impossible. So at that point, I didn't know what to do. So we just kind of picked up the same routine that we had before. They were at a different school, so I didn't get to see her as much. I'd go up on the weekends, and I'd see the family all the time, even though Angel wasn't there. We literally had no communication then because Angel wasn't there. But I'd still drive up to see the family and just hang out, just sit around and hang out with the family, which was fun. So was there another story, Angel, about that school? What was that school called? Saint
Joseph? Yeah.
St. Joseph, yeah. You finished there, right? I mean, or did you?
No, I didn't move again. That's just where I stayed. You sent letters to me, you sent packages. So we had some sort of communication, but other than that, that was kind of it. And then that was the school that I transitioned to the US from.
So that second trip, yeah, I didn't I didn't see her near as much. I mean, I saw her maybe once every couple of weeks, which is great, but I didn't get to see her every day like I did before. And I think that might have been the second trip was when I took you and Rebecca. We went to Dar es Salaam.
Zanzibar.
I got him on an airplane for the first time, and we flew to
Wow.
Zanzibar and spent like a week in Zanzibar. Then we took a hovercraft boat from Zanzibar to the capital city, Dar es Salaam, which is a huge city in Tanzania. So we did lots of things for the first time. But it was fun. There was lots of things we did before that for the first time, and just to see their I mean, I remember the first time I went on an elevator, just little things like that, that even going to a second level on in a building was just foreign to them. Up at the convent, Sister Donna had an ice machine, and they'd never seen ice. It
Wow.
just the things we don't even think about, it was so fun to show them and experience those things with her. But especially when we got to the cities, there was, I mean, swimming pools and things you can't even imagine. We didn't go, but they had a Subway there, the Subway restaurant, the sandwiches. Just, yeah, it was so fun to experience that through Angel and her sister's eyes, and just it was fun.
It was a magical time for us.
The innocence of those first time experiences that from a United States American perspective, you just don't have the awareness and the empathy until you're in that situation yourself. So Tony, to hear it through your eyes and perspective, being able to watch these girls who are elementary school age, and most elementary school kids in the United States have had those experiences, or at least some of them.
Mhm.
And to just watch all of that like they're toddlers in a candy store is really something.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think, we had, again, that was a month they had off. So we spent most of that month traveling in those two places, then went back home so they could hang out with the family before they had to get back to school. So that was kind of that second trip. And, again, I had to go back. And this time it wasn't necessarily I'm going to go back and resume my life, because at that point I'd made the decision I want to do more. I just need to figure out how to do it. So I did come back to the US that time, and then I started to work on how do I make this work. I remember the first attorney, and they're like, nope, there's no way you can do it. Because at that point, I'm a single male from America, a white male, and I want to bring back a 11-year-old girl from Africa. I'm not married. It's just, they're like, there's no way they're going to let you do that. Didn't like that answer. So I went and met with another attorney. And after about 4 attorneys and getting the exact same answer, I met this one attorney, and he kind of reiterated the same message, but he said, there's one way you can maybe get her here, and that's on a student visa.
Mm.
So he said, if you can find a school that's willing to sponsor her, SEBA sponsorship, you can bring her here, and then you can start the process of adoption here. So I'm like, okay. So then I had to go out and find schools that were certified, SEBA certified. Then I had to go meet with them and find out more about them, and they had to find out more about Angel and myself. And I narrowed it down to one school called Bellevue Academy, private school in Westminster. We had a Zoom meeting with you, didn't we, Angel?
I don't remember that.
Don't remember? Okay. Yeah, I think with Joy. Remember Joy?
Yeah, I remember Joy.
One of the administrators. So we had a call one time. I don't know if it was Zoom or what it was, but we spoke to Angel. They wanted to speak to her. So we had a call, and they were on board.
Mm.
So at that point, I kind of knew the process. I had a school that was, on board, and they were happy to have Angel. So then that took about 6 months. So I was back on a plane again, headed back to Tanzania, and that's when it got interesting. I'd also started the process to set up the interview with the embassy there, the U.S. Embassy in Dar es Salaam, submitted all the paperwork. And that second trip I was there, we also got her and her sister passports so they could travel. And it was interesting because they don't have birth certificates, because you have to have date of birth and some certain information for passports. So I remember one day, Angel and Rebecca and her mom and dad and me went down to this little government office in Boma. And we were sitting in this little room, and they don't have computers and stuff yet, at least in Boma. Just hard copy files just stacked up 6-7 feet, and this old desk. And he had a typewriter, and he pulls out like a piece of blue paper, like birth certificate paper. And he's like, all right, let's go. So he's asking for names. mother's name, father's name, what's your date of birth? We had no idea, so we're just making up dates of birth. And
What?
her mom,
What birthday did you pick?
I didn't pick any, but the one that I was given was May 16th, 1999.
we tried to make her like a little older so it didn't look so bad. So when I went to the embassy, she wasn't like too young.
That's crazy.
So we kind of aged her a little bit. But we were trying to ask her mom, and her mom had no idea. She remembered it was like the rainy season. That was her info.
Yeah. Yep.
It was raining out when she had her.
On the mud floor in the
Yeah,
hut.
in the hut.
In the mud hut. Yep.
Wow.
So anyway, we did get the birth certificates. Then subsequently, we got the passports, which you would think getting a passport is a pretty straightforward process because it's a government process, but it took 4 or 5 months, and we had to bribe people every step of the way
Wow.
just to get it from this stage to this stage to this stage. Unbelievable. Anyway, we got all that. I came back, talked to the attorney, had the school set up all the appointments with the embassy, and submitted all that paperwork with their passport information and photos and all that. So we already had a date when I went back, but I had to go back and kind of explain to them, this is where we're at, to her family and Angel and Rebecca and everybody. This is where we're at. This is what I was able to find out. This is what we're going to try to do. This is the new plan. So when it was time to go to the Dar es Salaam, how long was that bus ride, babe?
8 hours.
8 hours. 8 hours on a bus in Tanzania. That's a rough trip.
Wow.
So Angel and myself jumped on a bus. Her mom and dad jumped on a bus, and we had a hotel set up in Dar es Salaam. Took an 8-hour bus ride, and the roads there are just terrible. They have speed bumps probably every mile, even on the highways, because there's no police presence. So their way to keep the speed under control is speed bumps. So it was quite a journey. Do you want to tell the Dar es Salaam story? I've been talking a lot.
No, you go for it. Just in case mine cuts off, I'll tell the fun parts.
This is the fun part.
I feel like you kind of remember the logistics of everything. I just feel like I still was just so young and having fun.
Yeah.
The only part that I can tell really well is going up to the window.
Okay, well, I'll take it up to there. So, the first night, it was pretty uneventful. We got there late. We had a hotel set up, and we, had to take a taxi or whatever we took to the hotel. And again, everything, when I explain this, it's like, oh, okay, you get off a bus, you take a taxi, but everything is hard in Tanzania. So just to get from the bus stop to the hotel was an adventure. But we get to the hotel, and we have a room for Angel's parents and Angel. They're in one, I'm in another. But, it was interesting because those had American-style toilets, which Angel's mom and dad weren't used to. So to them, it was like, what is this?
What do you do with this? Wow.
Yeah. They're used to, I think they're the more Asian style. I think Eastern, it's still porcelain, but it's just a hole in the floor. But again, we were on the second or third floor. They weren't used to that.
The
Elevators. I know your dad had been to some cities, but I don't think your mom maybe ever had.
No, my mom never left the village. That was the first time.
And we were in a huge city. So all this was really new to her. And I think we took an extra day, but we took your mom on that big hovercraft, or that big boat.
I think so.
One of those boats that takes people and cars from one side of the channel to another. We took her on one of those just because we were going to the other side. And it was fun watching her mom.
She was amazing.
Angel's mom was awesome. She's so funny. So the first day, we just kind of, I think, cruised around the city and looked around and ate and all that stuff. But then the next day was the day
It was a big day.
Was the big day. Appointment at the embassy. And this was good. This was make or break. We didn't have a plan C, whatever plan we were on at this point. So we get up and, all four of us, again, it's a journey, but we figured out a way to get to the embassy, and we get there, and it's the U.S. embassy at this point. So it's much different with the guards and the security and all that. So we all checked in, but they didn't want her parents to go all the way through. Not for security reasons, I guess it just wasn't necessary. It wasn't part of the process. So it was just Angel and I. So once we got through security, it's all yours now, kid.
We got through security, and I guess we were kind of waiting in line. We were kind of seated down.
Yeah.
Because at this point we had already checked in, and we were seated next to this other guy who's been trying to go to the U.S. for 4 or 5 times. This was his 5th or 6th time trying to get a visa to go to the U.S. So at this point,
and he was a student also, but college student.
Okay.
Yeah. And at this point, he kind of already knew the process. And he was telling us that, once they talk to you at the window, and if they give your passport back to you, that means you didn't get it. But if they speak to you for a little bit, ask you a few questions, and they keep your passport, that means you got it. You're good. So I kind of knew that. And then when they called my name, they didn't want Tony to go up. It was just me, and
Yeah, I was ready. I had my speech planned. I was wearing my blazer. I was ready to go. She was probably like late 30s. I know, American girl.
yeah,
She goes, "Nope, just want to talk to Angel." I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
Yay.
So I go up to the window. I was a little nervous, but not too crazy nervous. I was just more worried about my English. And, I show up to the window and she's just asking me the basic questions like, do you know where you're going? Who are you going to live with? What school are you going to attend? And all this. She asked me very basic questions. And I think I kind of answered them with my, little English because she seemed to understand everything. But I just remember how nervous Tony was. I think he was more nervous than I was. 'Cause again, I think being a kid at that time really helped me because I just didn't understand a lot of the stress and everything that Tony was going through. So I was just like, okay, I'll go answer a few questions. I think they called you up after she was done talking to me.
Well, I remember because once you go up to the window, you're kind of behind. They have dividers set up so you can't see what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
And so I'm back sitting in the kind of the seats in the waiting room. And I just remember after maybe 10 minutes,
hmm
Angel kind of pokes her head around and she's like, come here. She's like, so I'm walking up there and I could kind of tell, and she didn't look sad. So I was just like, well, maybe this is good.
I was happy because of what the guy said. I just remember what that guy said. The guy said, if they keep your passport, it
Oh,
means you got it.
that kid. Yeah.
And at this point, they had not given my passport back to me. So I just remember looking all happy, telling you, they want to talk to you now.
Yeah.
But I was like, they still have my passport. This is a really, really good sign.
And I remember that kid was right in front of us in line and he went up and
Yeah.
interviewed. And then we saw him leave and he looked over at us and he just shook his head. He didn't get his visa. So then they call us up. We're next. I'm like, there's no way. And I was so stressed out.
Wow.
But anyway, Angel called me up and I went up and this lady was really nice. And she asked me a couple of just basic questions. I think just the same ones she asked Angel to see if our answers were the same. Then she said, one of my good friends lives in Denver. And she has a nonprofit organization that specifically is designed to educate Maasai girls from Tanzania.
What? You're
What?
kidding me. Wow.
And she wrote down her name. She goes, this is her name and this is her email. She said, contact her when you get there, which we did. But at that point, obviously, I knew that we were getting the visa. And I can't even explain because I had been under a lot of stress. I mean, self-induced just because, I didn't know what to do if this fell through. But the level of relief when I knew she was getting a visa was just, it's hard to explain. It's just hard to explain. But it was amazing.
Wow.
So anyway, at that point, we left there with some paperwork. Did we actually get the visa? I guess we did, didn't we? No?
I don't think we did. I think we got it like a few weeks later or something like that.
Weeks later.
But yeah.
So at that point, yeah, we were set. We booked a plane ticket and Angel said goodbye to her family.
Remember, I went back to school.
Yeah, you did go back to school.
I went back to school and then Tony showed up one day out of the blue. And all he says to me is, we're going to the US tomorrow. And I was like, so should I pack? Like, should I finish my homework? Like, what's going on? But I remember I was so excited. I was so excited. I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, we just know America from the word, but not really because we have any understanding of it. And at that time, we didn't really have movies or anything that kind of gives you a hint. Like, I just had no idea where I was going, but I just knew I was going to be fine and I was going to love it.
So yeah, we got on a plane and got back to the US. And I guess at that point my stress kind of picked back up because, I was told that even though she has a visa, they could still deny her at the Denver airport, customs or immigration. So I didn't truly feel comfortable until we got through immigration. Then we could have a sigh of relief.
Breathe.
But during this whole process, my friends and family, they all thought it was a bad idea. Even my mom, who's the most supportive, loving person on the planet, she's like, I just don't think it's a good idea. She's going to struggle, the language, the culture, just everything. And everyone said that, which, I mean, I see their point. But I always just told my mom, I said, Mom, you don't know Angel. I just knew there was something in her that, everybody loves her as soon as they meet her. And I knew she would be so competitive. I knew how smart she was. So it was interesting.
I'm emotional just thinking about the
Oh.
power of somebody knowing without any doubt that he believed in you in that way. I would love to hear just what that meant for you then, certainly what it means for you now, but I'm just over here in a puddle of tears listening to all of this because it's so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. But I would love to hear from you, Angel, and just kind of hearing what that stirs inside of you.
That's a very big question. I don't know if back then I truly knew just how much energy and time and money and stress that Tony was pouring into me, just to make me succeed. I definitely understand it now being an adult. And I really usually try to avoid talking about Tony because he knows himself. Like anytime I start talking about him at all, like I usually just start crying because it is really hard to explain the impact and I don't know, just everything that he has done for me from the second he saw me at that school. I mean, I feel like he hit the go button from the second he saw me. From me being sick, from me not having any clothes, from me needing a better education, from me, moving to a whole different continent. I mean, he's been there for me ever since. And this is so fitting that we're doing this podcast because it definitely should highlight the incredible person that he is. And he doesn't hear that a lot. He does, actually. He doesn't talk about himself a lot, but we definitely should because he is an incredible human and I will never be able to repay him. And I tell him that all the time, like I will never be able to repay you. And he says that I changed his life forever, but it's the other way around. When you see somebody moving heavens on earth for you, it's just, I mean, how do you even describe that?
It's love.
Yeah.
It's just love.
And it is reciprocated. It's a perfect example of two things can be true. You both see just the goodness in each other and recognize the sacrifice and everything that it took. Both of you recognize that within each other. And it's just this perfect love, Kelly. That's so true. I would also love to hear from you what it was like for you to say goodbye to your family, that tender age. I mean, you didn't know what you didn't know, but you were excited and you had this relationship with Tony, and Tony had established such an incredible relationship with your family. But you'd been at boarding schools with your sister in particular, and I'm sure, Kelly and I do this work together, right? Like we understand the bond of sisterhood for sure. I would love for you to take us back to that time. And then, Tony, how it impacted you as well, having to say those goodbyes, knowing that it wasn't forever, that you would see them again. I would love to hear a little bit more about what it was like to actually leave Tanzania.
Yeah, I would like to touch upon the time when Tony was kind of taking us around. We would go to national parks, Dar es Salaam, Zanzibar, go on a plane for the first time, like all these amazing adventures. And I would say for me, since I was little, I learned how to do the basic things before I even learned how to walk. Like I learned how to cut onions and tomatoes and all that before I even learned how to walk. Like we were just busy from the second we were born up until the point where I think I met Tony. I guess Tony taking us on all these adventures kind of gave us time to just be kids, time to have fun, and time to experience life, not just the village life, but what Tanzania has to offer. Because, we were literally flying to different cities. So I would say that's kind of when the excitement really started for me. Like, I could actually see the world, So I would say when Tony showed up to school and told me that we were going to the US, I would say to this day, the hardest goodbye was to Rebecca. Just because I was leaving her in boarding school by herself, because ever since we were born, we've been together, everything that we did. Even when we started hanging out with Tony, he would always get two pairs of dresses, one a different color, but same exact design, same thing with skirts. Like we were basically twins. So I think leaving her in boarding school and her knowing that I'm going to the US, literally every child's dream, I think that was the hardest goodbye for me. I think that's when I cried the most, was leaving her. And she even cried a lot, which made me cry a lot. But in terms of the family, I just don't remember really being that sad leaving the family. Again, it has to do with the fact that I was 11 or 12 years old at this point. I didn't really think I was going all the way to Colorado, 3 flights, 20 some hours. Like, I didn't think it was that long. I thought maybe we'll take 1 flight and we'll get there and, we're not that far away. So I don't think I fully comprehended everything. And how can I?
Right.
I just told him goodbye. Tony, I don't really remember crying at all on the plane or on the trip or anything.
No, you weren't really, I remember, saying bye to Kingy, but yeah, you weren't really, not that you weren't sad, but you just weren't emotional about it. I think to your point, At that point, you were kind of young, and it was an adventure. And Angel and Rebecca both, at that point, they didn't live at home much. Even when they went to the local school, they were only home 3 months a year, and had been that way for years. So it's not like if you pull an American child out of their home and they're with their parents every morning and all, come home after school, and they'd spend 3 months a year with their family essentially. So it was a little bit different. But yeah, I don't think she really just realized the distance and the logistics and her coming back to visit and the next time she'd see him. So I don't think she really understood that.
I'm taken back to Tony to the comment that you made about getting out of the car
Hmm.
when you went back to the village during that first break and anticipating from your perspective that there would be this emotional, joyous greeting between everybody. And it was really just a hand on the forehead and then off you go. And so culturally, it sounds like there's some big differences there in just how that emotional interaction between human beings in the family unit exists versus how we experienced and knew it growing up and in the culture where we live.
Yeah. Just, the Maasai traditionally are just not outwardly emotional when it comes to affection.
Yeah.
So at that point, I wasn't necessarily surprised that there wasn't more tears. And I think her dad is the only one that cried when she left.
Dad cries a lot.
He kind of does. So yeah, I wasn't super surprised. Also, on the flip side, I don't think her parents realized the logistics.
Yeah.
When am I going to see her again? I mean, are they a 2-hour flight? They have no concept of the globe and
Yeah.
how far things are. So I know some other people in the village said, you're never going to see her again, but I don't think they believe that because they knew me so well. So yeah, I just don't think anybody got it.
And we had the uncle cheering this on from the very get-go.
Yeah.
We did. Mm-hmm.
So, how was it landing in Colorado? Tony, you're stepping into fatherhood for the first time. And Angel, you're becoming not just a single daughter now with this new dad and this new home and this new community and this new state and this new nation and this new continent. I mean, everything's new school, new friends, everything. The two of you are beginning your life together. And it becomes quite a journey.
That's where the journey started, I feel like. I mean, it's kind of chapter 2. I mean, step 1 was obviously everything up to that point was an incredible journey, but then it was just like a whole new journey. It wasn't what I had naively maybe thought that now it's going to be easy. I mean, it was a different kind of challenge. But how'd you feel, Angel, like right when you got here? And
I don't know why, I just don't remember. The only memory that comes to my mind from the first few days was the first snow. But I remember landing, and I think we kind of landed late afternoonish, and just remember him telling me this is where you sleep, brush your teeth during the night, and just like those kind of like, I don't know, fatherly, I guess.
wow, that makes me sound great.
Oh, it was good. It was great. You were just like pointing out things to me, like this is where you brush teeth.
Sounds like taking someone to prison, telling them what they have to do.
So not true. That's so not true. I mean, I don't know. That's just what I remember. And then I feel like a few days later, or maybe the same night, it started snowing. That was just like the greatest day of my life.
Wow. Do you remember the day that you came?
I was just going to say, it was October 2012, right, babe?
Yep.
I met her in November 2010, and we got back almost exactly 2 years. That whole process was 2 years. But we got back late October. It was really almost exactly 2 years. But yeah, it snowed like 2 nights later, and I think she was asleep, but I went and woke her up because it was a good-sized storm. I mean, it was accumulating. And, we had been shopping to get her all Americanized, and She had snow boots and snow stuff, and she went out and played in the snow that night.
Yeah. I just remember putting so many clothes on. Every time I thought I had enough, Tony would give me another one. Put this jacket on, put the socks on. Like I just remember I had so many clothes on, but I mean, it was so fun. And so were the days after that, because then we went to visit Tony's mom, like Mimi now, but we went to visit her in Peonia, and that was a blast because she had four-wheelers. And I mean, I went from never having time to be a kid to just having 24/7 time of just being a kid. It was definitely an adjustment. Movies became my favorite thing because, I just have never really had access to movies. And now, we have TVs in the bedroom, we have TVs like in the living room. Like it was crazy. And I would
Uh-oh, we lost her again.
Yeah, we did. There we go.
There she is. TV's in every room.
Wow, I lost you guys a while ago. It was definitely an adjustment, but to me, I think it was a good adjustment. I went from living with so many people all the time to, it's just Tony and I, with our routine. We had our favorite TV shows. Like I said, a couple months later, maybe a month later, we went to see Mimi in Peonia, and that was so fun. I would literally was just on the four-wheelers all the time, just riding all over her farm. I loved her to death. She fed me so much. I got so chubby. Tony never told me, but it really was an incredible time. I didn't get culture shock. I really didn't. I think I was just so fascinated by everything. Like the fact that I could just sit on the toilet, or the fact that there's food in the pantry, or the fact that there are a million cars on the highway. I mean, the fact that we didn't spend all day cooking, like we actually had so much time to just go adventuring. And Tony was finding things every weekend for us to do. So I think those 2 months were the greatest 2 months of my life of just being a kid and just having so much time and not worrying and not, it was just, I hope it was the same for you, but it was incredible for me.
It was incredible. I mean, again, I felt the stress of entertaining her because I'd never before. I wasn't ever a parent. Like, what would be fun for her? And so finding things we could do every weekend was my main priority. We stayed busy. I didn't want to just sit at home. It was about Christmas time. It was the holiday season. So it was a good time. There was lots going on. So we stayed busy and just did lots of fun stuff. And I just wanted, she made a comment earlier just about how they never had a chance to be a kid. And I just wanted her to be a kid. I felt like I need to get her caught up. She deserves that. The life she's lived was so hard. She deserves just the best life I can possibly give her right now. So I just wanted her to be a kid and enjoy every second and do whatever she wanted to do, eat whatever she wanted to eat. She did get a little chubby, but it was cute.
Chubby's always cute when you're a little
Oh,
kid.
That's right.
I know. How come people don't say that as an adult? Look
how
she
cute
got
she
chubby.
is.
It's so cute.
So cute.
Yeah,
But it was fun. And then school started. She started halfway through her fifth grade year. I went back to work right away. And so she started school about the time I went back to work. And it was we had our ups and downs. It was tough to,
it was challenging. It was
at
challenging.
that point, my mom, she still lived on the ranch in Peonia. She lives here now because she wanted to be closer to Angel, but it was just me, just her and I. So getting her to school and getting her lunch and getting her ready and then getting me to work. And then I was downtown Denver, which, the commute and all that.
Yeah.
And then picking her up, and we had to find our groove. Homework. I remember homework.
You sound like you had a great time. Homework was definitely challenging. I would say school was a little tough. That's when I realized that my English was not that great and I had a big accent because a lot of the students just would not really understand me. But I would just say the school system in the US it was hard. Going from the level of education it takes here to all of a sudden you're in the US doing homework, it was tough. Like diagramming sentences and like doing it was hard. So I would go to school from 8 a.m. to whatever time, 3, 4 p.m. Tony would pick me up. We would eat dinner, and then basically Tony would have to teach me everything that the teacher taught me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would stay up late doing homework, and Bellevue was a rigorous school. She probably had more homework at Bellevue than she had all throughout high school, and that includes all of her AP and honors classes.
Wow.
So I don't think there could have been a better school for her to start at because it was a small school. It was K through 12. I think her class had maybe no more than 10 students. So they got lots of hands on attention. They got them prepared for secondary and high school and with all the homework and all the prep work. So really good place for her to start school. But we did struggle. Spent a lot of nights on the phone with my mom, who's a retired school teacher,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't diagram a sentence. And my mom's even shocked at, she taught fourth grade most of her career, and she was shocked at what Bellevue was teaching Angel in the fifth grade. So she helped a lot. Couldn't have got through it without Mimi.
Well, and you wanted an education, and boy, did you land
So
yourself right smack dab in the middle of that, didn't you?
I did. I really did. I really did. But I was competitive. I really did want to learn. It was taking me a little longer, but we got there.
As your education continued, you really accelerated through the school system. And I know we have still a lot to talk about what happened with your secondary education and then going on to college and the honors and the awards and some really big recognition too.
Yeah, like Tony said, I think Bellevue really set the foundation for my education because it was just so much work, but I think it caught me up fast. I think that's what really helped me out. And I mean, I was just getting A's. And Tony just kept saying, you make being a parent really easy, and I was just doing homework. I was like, I'll keep doing it. And so Bellevue really did help me because then when I went into high school, I almost felt like that was easier than middle school. And same thing, did all AP classes, honor classes,
Mm.
some college classes in high school. And then I feel like college was even easier than high school, which high school is easier than middle school. So to me, the hard part was the first 2 years when I came to the US and I was just catching up with everything. And then after that, I felt like I was kind of smooth sailing.
Tony, what was it like for you watching her accelerate through the educational system?
It was incredible. She started that halfway through fifth grade, and it was super hard for her. And if you could see the education that they receive in Tanzania and then throw her into a rigorous program like Bellevue had, I mean, you would just think she's going to get buried. But, from that first half of fifth grade year through high school, she never got anything less than an A. And I was just astounded. It was just unbelievable that she never stumbled at all. Yeah, it came natural because she's so smart, but she worked so hard. Just
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to be perfect on every assignment and everything she did. So it was just incredible to watch. And then as she went from Bellevue into public school, want to go to public school because of that's where all of her best friends from softball and sports were attending. So, then to watch her go into public school where there's hundreds and hundreds of kids. I think her graduating class was 400 or 500 kids. And again, everyone at that school just adored her, just loved her. They did a special on her every year in the yearbook, like a 2-page special on Angel. She was summa cum laude. She was most outstanding senior. She was a standout athlete in tennis and softball. I think a 7-time Letterman,
Wow.
all conference in both sports. I mean, every time you think she's done, she just would accomplish something different. My office at home is filled with her awards and her accolades and everything she's received.
Trophies, the
So,
whole 9 yards.
trophies, yeah, everything. It was just incredible. And she accomplished all the academic accolades while participating in sports year round. It wasn't just high school sports, it was club sports and everything else she did. It was just, I couldn't believe it. Even though I knew she would do well, she exceeded any expectation I had.
It's so fun to not only unpack your story and to hear all of these details, but to listen to and to witness the pride that you both have in each other is so special.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a pretty special bond. There's no denying that.
Tony, what has it been like watching Angel become who she is today?
Again, it's just fun. And she's right. It was so people are like, you did such a great job with her, and it's like I didn't do anything. I mean, she is so self motivated and so ambitious. Just to watch her succeed at one thing after another, it brings so much pride, and I'm just so happy for her. I mean, she's living the life that she deserves, and no one really knows. I mean, people know the story, But unless you lived it or lived with her, it's hard to understand how she grew up and some of the things that she went through in her life. She's so deserving of everything she achieves. And it just makes me so happy because everything she does it so gracefully. And, she's so kind and she's just incredible. Well, I can use the word remarkable because in 2020,
Yes.
she won the Most Remarkable Woman of Colorado award. So she is a
Wow.
remarkable young woman.
Tell us about that award. And on the heels of that, I'd really love to talk about how that honor impacted both of you and then stepping into the launch of One Love. And Angel, your desire and your passion for turning your story into something that could have such a positive impact for others.
I think if I remember correctly, you submitted the nomination.
I did.
Okay.
I saw something on the news. I think it was their first annual time they did it through Next Star Media, and they're a huge conglomerate.
Yeah.
So I just went online and submitted a thing. After I submitted, I never thought anything about it. And then I think, did you get a phone call or what happened, Angel?
I got a phone call and they were like, you got nominated for the Remarkable Colorado. And I was just shocked because I had no idea what was going on. And I wasn't expecting it, but they were like, would you like to proceed? I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing. That would be incredible. They told me it was because of your work with One Love. So at this point, I'm not even thinking about me in terms of getting the award. I'm just thinking of One Love getting put on the news, the publicity that this would give to One Love. But I mean, I just loved going through that process. They came to the house, shot a whole story on me, One Love, and Tony, and aired that. And then they called me in advance and told me that.
Uh-oh.
Really froze up on that one.
Hey, Tony, had she graduated from CU by the time the Remarkable Woman Award came along, or was it during that time frame?
She got it in her freshman year at CU.
Oh.
So she had just graduated high school.
Oh.
And it was interesting because all the finalists, there was like 5 or 6 finalists, and all the other women were probably in their 60s who had a lifetime of achievements. And then there's little Angel who just graduated high school. So yeah, it was early. She might have dropped altogether.
Yeah, she dropped altogether.
Well, I think Tanzania just gave us the perfect place to pause. And honestly, it couldn't have happened at a better time. Because we've heard how an unexpected friendship changed the course of 2 lives forever. But coming to America wasn't the destination. It was only the beginning.
Next week, we'll continue our conversation with Tony and Angel as we explore everything that happened after, from building a new life in the United States to creating opportunities for countless others through Angel and Tony's nonprofit, One Love. It's a story of purpose, legacy, and the extraordinary ripple effect that begins when just one person believes in another. Until then, keep living with purpose, intention, and gratitude. We'll see you next week on the PIG. Hearing the stories of others helps us create a more meaningful connection to our own. We hope today's conversation offered you insight, encouragement, or even just a moment to pause and reflect on the story you're living and the legacy you're creating.
If something in this episode moved you, please consider sharing it with someone you love. A small share can make a big impact. You can also join us on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn and connect further at thepigpodcast.com.
And if you're enjoying this podcast, one of the most meaningful ways you can support us is by leaving a 5-star rating, writing a short review, or simply letting us know your thoughts. Your feedback helps us reach others and reminds us why we do this work.
Because the PIG isn't just a podcast. It's a place to remember that even in the midst of grief, life goes on, resilience matters, and love never leaves. Thanks for being on this journey with us. Until next time, hugs and kisses, everyone.